I tried to put I copy and paste from the web page from the announcement of the meeting, and it comes with, and I want to add space lines in between, or spaces in between the lines, so it's not look so jumbled. Well, when you do that, it suddenly um, takes the last word of the. This is hard to believe. Take the last word of the line above. Lines. It says the last word of the first line of my message was museum. Well, it replaced museum with a Cairo Art Museum or something. And then I was unable to edit them. So if your announcement would have, if you got it through Facebook, said something crazy, and I apologize for that. Anyway, welcome to the October meeting of the Early Television Museum community. I want to thank the New Jersey Antique Radio Club for sponsoring the meeting and providing our YouTube feed. Please, I'll say Dave's courtesy message. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're talking. Do we have any new people who have not been on the meeting before or haven't been on for a while that would like to introduce themselves?
Hey, I'm
Well,
Gary in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm a director of the National Capital Radio and TV Museum, and I have been here before, and I love what you guys are doing. And I've been at your museum a few times, or at least once, coming again next year.
thanks, Gary. Good to see you again. Anybody else?
I think most of you know who I am, but I've been a very sparse attendant of this meeting. So I'm Matthew DeSaro, Board of Directors member for the museum, and longtime television collector. I'm actually currently in Massachusetts, but reside near Seattle in Washington State. I'm hoping I'll have some time during this meeting to talk about some of the improvements and projects we got completed at the TV museum during the fall swap meet. Welcome and thank you for having me.
Anybody else? Well, welcome to all you old timers. Let me give I will let, I was going to talk about what Matthew was going to talk about, but I'll defer to Matthew when we get to that part of the museum report. The swap meet was a tremendous success from a number of perspectives. First of all, the museum netted about $3,000 from it, which is unusual. We sold a CTC4 spare that we had for $1,200, and that helped. But we also got commissions on the sale of the auction items, the other auction items, including the Color-Tel, which sold for $2,200, and the Predicta that you guys restored for the last sweepstakes, and it sold for $2,000. So we got commissions from that. We got quite a few donations, and we sold a bunch of stuff, mostly junk from our perspective, but stuff, it cleared out a lot of space in the museum, which was really helpful. A Heathkit set that we've had for 5 years trying to get rid of, we were able to unload. So we now have a lot more space in the museum, and it's going to be in the warehouse area, and it's going to be much easier to rearrange the orientation of the stage and the seating for next year's convention. In fact, already sort of started on that. The other good thing was that through the backbreaking help of several volunteers, we got I was able to get the shelves down that long hallway on the north side of the warehouse finished, and our volunteers emptied the storage locker, thereby saving us $350 a month, and got most of the CRTs put away on those shelves. We still have about 40 CRTs on the warehouse floor that I'm slowly getting in place. So probably by the end of next week, we'll have every single CRT stored and room for more. Um, the other good things that happened is that I asked David Perdue, who has been restoring sets for us for a long time. Every time he comes to town, he takes a set back with him to West Virginia and restores it and brings it back, and he does a wonderful job. And I asked him if he would. Sorry, that's being too loud. I asked him if he would consider the Royal Sovereign, and he said sure. So he took it apart and took it all back to home with him, except he forgot the power supply. So he came back today and picked it up. So we'll have our Royal Sovereign working again. The sweepstakes, I think Chuck mentioned, an anonymous donor, I think he still wants to remain anonymous, bought a bunch of tickets at the end, about $2,000 worth of tickets. Well, it turned out to be, so he bought 25% of the tickets, but it was also when we were having 100% bonus ticket promotion. So he had a very high percentage of winning, and he did. He won the Royal Sovereign and the CTC5. So, and he's generously donated them to the Texas Broadcast Museum. And that's what we were talking about earlier, making arrangements to get them down there. But I like it when karma works nicely. Matthew, why don't you go ahead and talk about the stuff you worked on?
Turn on my audio. Sure, happy to, Steve. Let me see here. I've got some pictures ready here, so I'm just gonna let's see. Can I share the screen? Yes, I can share screen. Okay. All right. There's my trip over here. So, I've gone through a couple of pretty major changes, improvements to the video game display. So for those of you who aren't aware, this is in the lobby when you first enter the museum, in place of we had previously had some early British sets. And as of a couple years ago, the board of directors had voted to have a rotating exhibit in this room to try to keep things fresh. So this is the one that's currently on display. And we've actually decided to keep it for a second year here because, at least according to Larry, who would know, on the ground, this has been a very successful draw for getting people into the museum. And my big fear that people would just want to, play with video games and not be interested in anything else hasn't really proven true. From what I understand, it gets people through the door, they get excited about it, and then they get to see the rest of the museum and are very impressed with everything else as well. So this has been quite a successful exhibit. But when I set this up last spring, when I installed this, there were a few things which I didn't have the time or the pieces to quite get working. So this was my big contribution during the fall swap meet, was to do some updates and improvements to this exhibit. So I'm just going to point out a few things. We've got these new nice black tablecloths, which just add a little bit of contrast to the room and help in the sense that they hide the wires and the tables, which are distractions and potential, attract the wrong type of attention. The most exciting new addition here is this green screened item on the left. This is a 1972 Magnavox Odyssey, the very, very first home video game, actually quite a valuable artifact. And I have this running on a period correct 1972 television with the right screen dimensions. And that matters because this thing came with little plastic overlays that would stick to the screen with static cling because they didn't have any better graphics than a couple of rectangles that you could move around the screen. So this has proved, at least during the couple days the museum was open, to be quite a hit with visitors. And I'm very glad to have gotten that set up. I also added a couple of advertisements to the poster board, the framed poster, some advertisements for the Atari 2600. I cleaned up the contacts in the Nintendo Entertainment System here because it was flaky. It wasn't always coming on, so that should be fixed. I rearranged the display here of boxes. These are all the original boxes that we have for this equipment, which adds quite a bit of interest, especially to people who are collectors of these things. And last but not least, I got our big fancy Trinitron and Sony PlayStation 2 system up and running. We've had repeated problems that turned out to be a bad like DVD disc, game disc thing that was keeping it from working after I replaced the laser and a bunch of other stuff. So this appears to be good, and I've gotten Larry all trained up on how to how to operate these systems and show it off to the visitors. So thank you very much to Blake, who I don't think is with us today, but thank you very much to him for his help with this, and a number of other members who help move and lift and get things working. So if you're in Hilliard and you have any interest in early games, got a nice little display going. I just, we'll see if this actually plays. I just was gonna show, may not work. But, oh, there we go. So this gives an idea of how that magnet.
This is Matthew DeSaro.
Oh.
And I'm here at the Early Television Museum in Hilliard, Ohio. I have been working with my wife, Kayla, and the rest of the Early Television Foundation board to design and install an exhibit on early video games. We have a number of consoles here ranging from the very early days.
So I don't know, could you hear the audio from that video?
So we good.
Yes.
Okay, so I recorded a little video about the exhibit and I posted it on YouTube to try to just get a little bit more attention to the museum and what we're doing. And I can post the link to that in the chat for this meeting as well.
I may have something
Okay.
of interest for you regarding your Magnavox product there.
Yeah.
Magnavox for a long time was headquartered here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I knew most of the engineers up there, and many of the items were assembled up in Greenville. I knew one of the artists there, or one of the advertising guys, and I have a bunch of them. I can't remember, but I've got a bunch of stuff that came from there, and I've got some strange posters and stuff, I believe, for the Odyssey or another type of video game that they were considering to manufacture. But I've got a bunch of stuff regarding that doesn't exist anymore. But I've got, stuff that it would only be found here in Knoxville at that time. They've since moved out. There's no more Magnavox here in Knoxville up on Strawberry Plains for headquarters. But I need to dig through some of that stuff, and some of that may be of interest to you.
Well,
and these are large posters too.
Yeah.
I mean, big stuff.
I would certainly be interested. I suspect, at least for the duration of the exhibit, if there was one that was particularly interesting, we could display it at the museum, or just as I said, this is a temporary exhibit, so I'm not sure how much we want to start a permanent collection of this stuff at the TV museum, but I would certainly be interested for my collection. Feel free to reach out. I appreciate that.
I'll see what I can find, what I've got. I know where it is. It's just a little hard to get to, but I've got a bunch of stuff there.
A couple of big posters would look good on the background on that wall.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. I like that idea a lot. As long as we could arrange a loaner cover, that would work. Any more comments on the video game display?
Well done, Matthew. It looks terrific.
Thank you so much, Ed. It means a lot coming from you. It's been a labor of love. All right, I'm going to move on briefly to the second thing that I did. One of our big campaigns last spring, aside from the video game exhibit, was setting up the alternative color display case. That's a terrible picture because of the shutter, but we want to have a JVC LCD shutter CRT, a Sony Chromatron, and an Indextron. I still haven't gotten the Indextron working enough to add that one to the display. That'll be hopefully a next spring project. But I did contribute, technically on long-term loan, the Chromatron.
One more quick comment. That
Please.
Pong box is the Pong box in the picture of the
Yep.
shelves. That's
Yep.
priceless.
Thank you. A lot of this stuff is quite valuable. My wife and I have been retro gamers for a number of years, and I've put together this collection over a long time. That is a box from the original 1975 Pong. That was the first large-scale integrated circuit-based large home video game. It's also probably the first home device with an LSI chip in it, though I haven't been able to really confirm that. So really appreciate that. Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but we have a Sears branded Atari 2600 box and system as well, which is also extremely unusual. Atari started out selling through Sears exclusively because they didn't have their own distribution networks, and that actually continued into the first year or so that the 2600 was sold. So this is one of the first 2600 systems, then called the video computer system, that was marketed and is complete. So thank you. Okay, so I just was going to talk a little bit about the alternative color display. So I can make this work here. There we go. So the Chromatron, I gave a presentation on this last spring. I want to give another presentation, not today, but at some point during this format on the history of the Chromatron. But it's the predecessor to the Trinitron and is a very rare early color, well, early-ish, 1969 color system. Unfortunately, and we have one on display that I have fully recapped and aligned and gone through. But unfortunately, when I left it last spring after a couple hours of running, on display for the museum, the screen was fading out to the point that the picture wasn't really visible. And I managed to track that down. If I can find it, sorry for all the flashing pictures. There we go. I believe the very specialized Japanese high voltage rectifier tube, which I hadn't replaced when I did the restorations. I couldn't find another one. Pretty sure it's weak. And over the last 6 months, I tracked down a replacement. The replacement is also used, and I'm not sure if there's another problem on top of it, but as of now, and I think, Steve, you can attest to this, we ran this almost all day, and the picture might have gotten a little dimmer, but it held up just fine. So this exhibit is now pretty much ready for action. My only request, and just as you go to Larry, is I sort of would prefer we don't, run this thing all day every day. So when people are visiting, turning it on would be good.
It's on our. We have motion sensors in those rooms, so it's only comes on when people walk in to the room.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that's excellent. I just, it's probably a one-of-a-kind CRT. No sense wasting the photons. Now, naturally, the JVC is brighter. It was intended to be used in daylight. That's no surprise. But this one produces a pretty decent color picture. A little jaggy artifact is the camera. So that's now working, and I'm feeling quite a bit better about that display. Had the swap meet. That went okay. There wasn't a lot of activity, but some good items went past, including a last roundy color studio monitor. That was very interesting to see. Myself and Blake were in attendance. Okay. I added one. I bought for $10 at the swap meet and added to this display one more television screen. It's nothing particularly special. It's from the mid 70s, like the early games. I just wanted to fill in this display case so it didn't look so empty and was just more visually appealing. So that's done. We can replace that with something else if the need arises. Skip through that. This was the auction. I got a video of that. Steve already touched on it. Okay, and then here's the last thing I wanted to talk about. So this is the Telejuke. For those of you who might not be familiar, this is from, Steve, you said it was 1946. It seemed to be 47 from the documentation I was finding. But in any case, mid-late 40s. And this is, as far as we know, the only one of a kind of these that still exists, that's still in the hands of collectors. The idea behind this item was that if, in the 40s, baseball was America's game, if you were at the bar and you wanted to watch a game, you could put some money in the jukebox and turn on a television. A lot of people didn't have them in their homes yet. And then, turn Hank back on or whatever afterwards on the regular jukebox. So Steve had done a marvelous job of restoring this instrument. What is it, a decade and a half ago or something at this point, maybe longer than that. But unfortunately, and it was a very attractive artifact. A lot of interest at the museum, got run a lot, and suffered a catastrophic power supply failure. I believe that the root cause of the problem was that we got a heater to cathode short in one of the rectifiers, 5U4 equivalent, and that fried a big filter inductor choke, B+ filter choke. It took out the vertical centering pot, a bunch of capacitors, some high wattage resistors, a couple other little things. So the last time, last spring or last fall that I worked on this, I had identified the blown choke, and Steve had actually replaced that himself. Thank you for doing that. But it still didn't solve the problem. So I had another day to work on it, and I managed to get the rest of the bad parts identified and replaced, at least temporarily. This is that bad pot. I replaced the pot with just a couple fixed resistors. So unfortunately, I had to compromise between good vertical linearity and filling the screen. And after a quick discussion with Steve, it was like, yeah, fill the screen for the viewers. So that's what I did. I have a new pot on order that should fix this. And next time I come, I'll put that in there and we should be able to get a more linear picture. But it is working and is displayable. Also, the vertical ripple, that's due to some wrong value electrolytics. I didn't have a couple hundred microfarads to put in there. Also ordered. I'll take care of that next time. But the television portion of this works, which is really exciting because this had been a big draw and had been down for some years. I also made a very serious effort to repair the record changer. I know that in the past, it has been a lot of fun for people to be able to actually operate a vintage jukebox. Unfortunately, I was less successful in this. This is a clutch transmission mechanism that goes in the very heart of the jukebox. And as found, it had both pot metal swelling and dry grease seizing it solid. I completely disassembled it. It was involved, pounding out swaged in pins and a bunch of things. Got all the old grease removed with alcohol, whole thing cleaned, swelled pot metal filed away enough that it all runs smoothly and put back together. So this is reinstalled in the jukebox, and the jukebox mechanism essentially works. It will cycle through, put a record on, lift up the platter, put the needle down, etc. However, it's not timed correctly, using the terminology from the original service manual, in that the exact time that each of those events occurs, which is set by little set screws on cams, is now not quite right. And I ran out of time and frankly energy to finish fixing that before I had to head back. So I'm hoping that between now and next spring or at next spring, someone who has a little more experience with jukeboxes might be willing to take a tackle at getting that thing timed and getting the coin op mechanism working, which I didn't even have time to look at. I was just trying to get the changer working. I sent Steve a copy of the mechanical and electrical service manuals, so we have those.
Matthew, what is the source material for this?
This is, I think, this is what is ever is on the museum's feed. I think this is what was that old TV show?
Well, it looks like an Ed
You know,
Sullivan
Steve?
show.
Ed Sullivan, yes, that's right. It was an Ed Sullivan DVD I think they had playing.
Okay, so it's part of the distribution system within the museum.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah. So Steve had been talking about clearing some things out. I just got a last sort of set of pictures around that room. Obviously, there's still sets in here, but it is significantly reduced. So there's a good shot, just showing, you know, we've still got some of them are claimed, but it's quite a bit cleared out. And with that, I think I would like to say a solid thank you to everyone who helped out at the fall swap meet, and especially to Steve and my fellow board of directors members for organizing it. And I echo the sentiment that this has been a big success, and we'll take any questions or comments or concerns.
Thanks for doing all that.
Yeah, Matthew, thank you very much you spent a lot of time working on things and very productively, which is nice. We really appreciate it.
If you want to come to Texas and fix some stuff, I'll buy you lunch.
I will at some point. It's on my list to come see your museum as well. Favoring ETF only because it's, you know, what I got involved with first. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, we as always, we're looking for volunteers to help with things. You know, I do what I can, but you know, there's a lot more than any one person could possibly tackle. So, yeah.
There always is more than you can tackle. I mean, there always is.
Always is.
And if it's not broken, it will be soon. So
will be soon. So again, my only request out to this group is, you know, ask your friends if you know someone, especially someone who's near Ohio, who actually has some experience working on jukeboxes, because they're sort of their own world. It would be very helpful.
they definitely are. We have several of them, and God help you trying to fix them. I mean, they're you wonder what they were smoking when they designed these things to begin with.
Okay, I'm not the only one.
No, it must have been pretty good stuff. That's all I can tell you.
It looks, the mechanism sort of looked like it was prototyped out of a Rector set and then cast out of pot metal once they had it working.
Yeah, and pot metal is not your friend. I mean, it
Yeah.
binds up and it's a mess.
So, and thank you for the kind comments in chat as well. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Matthew. One other thing, I just thought this would be humorous for people to see. One of the now that I'm pretty well finished with everything I need to do at the museum on my trip back this time, I have several projects that I want to get done, and one of them is you may remember that we had an ATC Kennett. Can't call it a TV set, a monitor that was donated, a pre-war monitor. Interesting little machine, and one of my projects was to document it, the chassis on it. So I started doing that, and I gave up, and I'll show you why. See how why is this not working? I was trying to share my screen. Well, rather than just sharing my screen, I think I'll just take the camera and.
Well, you are sharing your screen, but it's the wrong screen that's up on your computer.
The wrong screen.
Well, you're showing a Zoom. screen and Zoom website.
Yeah, I see
in the
that.
browser.
Why does it want me to sign in again?
No, you're on, if you're just, what are you trying to show? Something on your
I
computer?
want to, I've got my camera aimed at what I'm trying to show.
Mhm. Well, stop sharing. We can see your camera in
Okay,
your,
well, let me figure out
I'll,
how the hell to stop sharing now.
I can do that. Hang on.
Can you?
Well, yeah. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, I don't know if you can see this. There you go. But it's a complete nightmare. Parts missing, falling apart. I usually I'm able to, even with this sort of condition, I'm able to trace what was there and come up with a schematic. And this has been so badly mangled that it's impossible. So I'm simply going to put it back together and clean it up and call it a day, because this would I don't, maybe I could do it, but it would take a long time, and I'm not sure the result would be very good.
What is it supposed to be?
Okay, this is the here's the top view of it. This is in the base of the Kinnett, which has a 5-inch CRT. It's driven by a remote receiver through coaxial cables, which feed it. The remote receiver feeds a number of these units. It feeds vertical sweep, horizontal sweep, and video. And on this chassis are two 879 rectifier tubes to provide the high voltage for the CRT, 5-inch CRT, and also a low voltage for the horizontal and vertical sweep output tubes. One of them is a 57, and we don't know what the other one is. It's this 5-pin. Yes, it's a pre-war remote monitor that was used. If you look on our website in the pre-war, you'll see the ATC Kinnett, and it will give a description of it. But that's what's on this chassis. We were just hoping to document what was. Actually, I was hoping we were going to be able to restore it, but that's obviously out of the question.
Steve, could I add a little comment about things that weren't mass produced that are rat's nests? And
Yes.
I ran into this on medical equipment when I first started. They sent the new guy out on something that was already a piece of nuclear medicine equipment already 10 years old. And they told me the problem was probably in this trunk of wires all through one harness with a olive drab military connector on the end. So I started to open it up, and what did I find when I'm trying to trace things from a diagram? That every wire in this trunk was green. And I called the engineer, one of the engineers who originally worked on them, and he said, "Oh yeah, green was on sale that week." So I think you might end up running into the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
I
doctors say, first do no harm.
I think also it's been messed with quite a bit by people after it was in use, which makes it even worse. Okay, let's move on. Any more questions about what's going on at the museum now?
I have a question about the video game display. Do you have any Radio Shack color computers that play games, or Apple II computers that play games?
So I certainly have examples of both of those in my private collection. We have pretty limited space in that room, and I had to be pretty selective to down select. I didn't include any early home computer equipment because, I mean, I could have. It's more complicated to set up and use. often, I mean, not entirely, but usually was connected to a dedicated monitor as opposed to a television set. And given we're trying to sort of bridge the gap here to television, which is what the focus of the museum is, I'm certainly open to suggestions. And if we wanted to do another exhibit, in the future with different artifacts that was maybe more computer focused, I'd be happy to help with that. But unless we can find one of the displays we'd like to remove, it's kind of hard. Yeah.
My interest comes from various reasons. One was I was in 1977, I was working at a department store writing ads for all these different systems that were out, the TI-99 and the Odyssey and a bunch of other, and the 2600 Atari and so forth, before I got into the video game industry. But anyway, there was a really neat YouTube that I saw on those two, the color computer and the Apple II, which was, of course, newer than that earlier technology that I'd worked with. And it was telling how they got the color on the screen because they used a trick. The computer boards weren't capable of putting out any color signals. So they were actually using Luma that was near the chroma signal. And then they had to provide a fake burst to get around the color killer.
Yep.
So they were hooking it up to the TV. It was very clever. And I don't have the YouTube address here with me, but it's a YouTube that would be very enjoyable, and how they got the originally just the red and the blue signals. But then later on, somebody else came up with the rest of the signals, and they actually put out a color bar generator using this crazy method. It was
originally invented by Steve Wozniak, the inventor of the Apple II, for the simplest red-green version. I don't know, obviously it was expanded after that, and was one of the key innovations that allowed the Apple II to be as powerful as it was, released as early as it was for the home market. And yes, a very important piece of history, and a fascinating misuse of the NTSC standard.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Mike was going to give a brief presentation. Mike Molnar is going to give a brief presentation about the AWA conference. So, Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, we'll see if which of my screens you're getting here. Are you seeing the beginning of a PowerPoint on the screen there, or
Not yet.
no? Then maybe this one. Is that better?
Nope.
No. How about this one?
You click on the share button.
I was going back and forth between screens. Okay, let's try that.
There you go. Okay.
And then I'll do from the beginning.
He's cute.
Yeah. So the Antique Wireless Association, for people who don't know, is about 75 years old, has members in every state and many around the world. They publish the AWA Review, where people submit articles every year, and they publish a journal that's every quarter. And they have the big conference in Rochester every year that this picture shows what their swap meet looked like. This would have been about 15 years ago. And that's actually only a third of it. It's cut off on either side. But the flea market part of the conference has really fallen off due to eBay and online auctions and that sort of thing. But there's still a couple dozen people come and set up in the parking lot. But they also have, from people arriving on Tuesday, leaving after an auction on Saturday, a full schedule of presentations. They have a banquet. They have an old equipment contest that our Jeff Bourne runs every year. And I noticed this year that 3 ETF members had things in the contest. Jeff had, and Mark Nelson and I had things in there. So I took a few pictures and found out they were good enough to show you guys some of what was there. This is Mark Nelson's display of the little tiny boxes that he likes so much, the different UHF amplifiers. I think on the far left, that's the rabbit ears that does both the VHF and UHF. And he also brought that little plug-in preamp that that he showed us on one of the Zoom meetings, and he also did an article about it for the AWA's journal. And in honor of that, he won an award for his article, and that he was presented that during the banquet. Jeff brought that. Some of you may have seen it at the early television conference, that solid state RCA research camera that goes back to the germanium diode days, with an extra small Vidicon. And Jeff, do you want to say anything about this piece? He was there a few minutes ago. No, we might have lost Jeff.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's called the TVI, produced over in Lancaster, PA at RCA. I got it from Floyd Jury years ago, and it just sort of sat in the back corner for a while. Finally dug it out, and Daryl sent me the licensing or the lab bulletin for it. He had a copy or had the original. So all of that was on display, and it turned a lot of heads at the ETF conference and at AWA also.
And we'll go to your next slide, and you can talk about that.
Yeah, the Type 500A 1939 camera that resided in Charleston, West Virginia from about 1946 to the present. It's now down at the museum in Huntington on permanent display.
And you can see it has the cover off. The cover was down there on the floor with WTIP on it, and their experimental station.
Yeah, the W8XGZ, and GZ was Gus Harris.
Okay. So I'll have to tell you that Jeff won for the best in show, and I think also for the heaviest in show, because that must have been
also People's Choice.
That's right. People's Choice. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it did both.
Okay. I don't want to cut you short there. I brought this CRT from Manfred von Arden, one of his early CRTs that he used in his type that he used in his flying spot scanner. And I brought some pictures that I had taken, and was able to blow them up and see the structure, so people could take a good look at that. Many have never seen a tube like that before. And it does, the label on the base does say Manfred von Arden Laboratory. And I also brought an assortment of tiny TVs. A lot of people think that the Sony 8-inch from Japan was the first little tiny TV brought into the country. But before that, there were tube models brought in that I never knew about. You can see all the ventilation they needed on the top, and then the two on the ends actually have ventilation right above the plastic cowl around the screen. And the same sets, what I was able to find out, were actually sold from the same manufacturer. I've got the box. This Tokyo Denshi company made them, advertised then as the world's smallest TV. And Handy Vision is one of the names it was sold under. On the side of the box, which was a little concerning, is it said 8-inch color. And it turned out, no, they were talking about a black and white TV, but they were talking about the color of the cabinet, not the TV. And the last thing that I brought was a wireless piece, all built onto a breadboard. And this is from a company that was made in 1915. So that if somebody wanted to get started out in the ham radio field, this was something they could buy and not build themselves. It was all on one thing, just hook up batteries and an antenna and a ground. What you're seeing in that picture is on top is the antenna coil. On the far left is the tuning coil for the radio part and receiver part. And on the right-hand side is the key for sending out code. The side view shows you let me see if I have the If I can put the pointer on. Boom. So here is the crystal detector, and that's the little cat whisker down on the bottom, and it's tickling the crystal over there. The way someone in that time period would adjust their crystal would by using this buzzer that's in the black box back here, and you'd press the button down, and just the little bit of arcing you get in an electric buzzer is enough to send some RF out that you can find the most sensitive spot on your crystal, and then you let it go, and then do your tuning on the slide tuner up here with these adjustments. This is a knife switch to turn on either transmit or receive, a condenser for the transmitter and the key. And inside the wooden box is an induction coil. And on the right is the interrupter for the induction coil. So that generates a quasi alternating current to power up the coil. This is the spark gap. You would adjust the gap in there to get the healthiest looking spark, and up through the antenna coil and out. It's from 1915, and as far as what someone could probably do with it, even if you had a decent antenna, is it reminds me of the interest we would have had in the 1960s, 70s of getting a little 100 milliwatt walkie-talkie that you might be able to reach your friends and they might be able to reach you, but you weren't going to. It was hopefully something that would get you interested and started in the ham radio hobby. So those were, I thought the ETF made a good showing there. A lot of first place ribbons, and the Antique Wireless Association is, even if you're a TV guy, it's a good thing to catch an interest in. Their website's very good. In a past newsletter, I had the let me turn off the screen there for a minute. We had the tour of their museum, which is worth a trip to the Rochester area on its own. So that's it. Thanks. Let me get. Why am I not getting that screen back?
Thank you, Mike. Anybody got any questions or comments?
What type of tubes were they using in the 8-inch TVs? Do you know?
I didn't take them apart. I'm assuming they would have been Japanese numbers because they wouldn't have had any real establishment in this country.
Like something very small, like a New Vista or a peanut tube or something very small.
One of the names on it was Starlight, so I figured I'd look them up in Sam's, but the only listings they had in Sam's were for what do you call it? A Starlight tape recorder and some kind of Starlight radio. So they never made it to Sam's.
So I can't comment on those specific televisions as I would love to own one. They're extraordinarily rare. That said, I have a reasonably large collection of similar era Japanese radios. And while there were some, most famously the Koyo Parrot, which used sub-miniature vacuum tubes, what are often referred to as pencil tubes. Most commonly, the tubes were relatively standard 7 and 9-inch miniatures with Japanese, part numbers, and just really tightly crammed the heck in there. So that would be my best guess, but I don't know. I'd love to own one of those TVs someday.
I think if you put it on a coffee table, you could warm your feet on it too by the time it's been running for a while.
And Mike, how do those Japanese TVs compare size-wise, say, to that 8-inch RCA we have down in the RTM?
There was actually an 8-inch RCA on the table right next to it in the contest, and they looked about the same.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tokyo Denshi, was that what became Toshiba at some time? Does anybody know? I think it did.
I think it is.
I don't know.
Oh, I've seen the name on some stuff before.
Yeah, I don't recall. I read something on that recently, and unfortunately, I don't recall. But it is something you can search up.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Did you make it to the auction at the AWA?
No, and I understand you beat me out on that Iconoscope and the the other tube, the
Yeah, the image dissector.
Yeah, no, I should have stayed to beat you up after.
Yeah.
But
And here's the iconoscope. That was in the auction. These came from Dick Brewster.
yep. And some people were wondering what that side piece is for, and that was apparently to hold it, to put the side closest to you.
Over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the later tubes. That was where they mounted the arbor that held the target area.
Oh, okay.
And
That
how
makes
they
sense.
inserted the target in through the tube.
Gotcha.
And hang on a second. This is the image dissector. And both of these came from Richard Brewster up in New York, who used to be in Pittsburgh. And this one, I believe, and he believes, was an RCA version of that, of one of the Farnsworth tubes.
That would make sense because I never saw a layout like that in any pictures.
So it's got all the different image intensifier plates. I haven't found it in any of the RCA journals yet or anything, but the research continues.
Well, the fact that they stole the design, they might not want to document it too much.
True.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike. That was very informative. I'm glad you asked to do that. Now let's move on to we're doing something new this month. Rather than featuring an item at the museum, the Early Television Museum, we're branching out, and we've asked Chuck if he could show us something from the Texas Broadcast Museum we might be interested in. So I will turn it over to Chuck.
Okay, well, we're going to see if we can make this work. I'll go to share a screen here. I seem to be a glutton for punishment. I mean, I've been fascinated by this stuff all my life, and my father told me that I should probably, that's interesting. I don't know why I got this. We'll see if it'll do this thing. Yeah, hey, and my father told me I should collect stamps, and in retrospect, there might be something to that, because I apparently like to collect things that are kind of big and heavy and stuff like that. And one of the things that arrived not too long ago is this 1973 Gerstenschlager. It took me a little while to learn how to say Gerstenschlager, TV mobile unit. Can you see this graphic that says 73? Okay,
Yes.
just checking, because you never know. I mean, it says I'm screen sharing, so, but some time ago, I didn't inherit, but I've came across this 1949 Dumont Telecruiser, serial number 101. It's the very first one that Dumont ever sold. It was sold to Channel 8 in Dallas, which oddly enough was owned by a guy in Kilgore, Texas, where I am. This was a 10-year restoration project, and it's been about 20 years since I got the thing. It was just horrendous, but at any rate, it followed me home. So, stamps would have been a lot easier, really. I mean, it really, truly would have been. And then later on, our ESPN mobile unit, I was at the NAB convention. The guy from NAB at the NAB convention came in and said, "Hey, would you want one of ESPN's first 3 TV mobile units?" I was actually with my friends from the Museum of Broadcast Technology in Woonsocket, and they went, "We don't have any place to put it. Maybe Chuck does." And I had spent about 2 years on the phone with a guy named Larry Silva, who apparently owned this thing. He had got it from ESPN and had a small production company called Cruise Line. So at any rate, it ended up in Texas. Getting it here was a nightmare. That's another story for another time, but at any rate, it's there inside the museum. So one day somebody said, "Hey, we got a Gerstenschlager." And I go, "Is that a beer?" No, it's a mobile unit. Actually, Gerstenschlager made a whole bunch of stuff. They were put in business in 1860. Mr. Gerstenschlager was from Germany, and he was a carriage builder, and he moved to Ohio, Worcester, Ohio, I think it is. And next thing he knew, he was making car parts and things. And they're still in business, although they've changed their name. They're basically an aluminum metal fabricator. I understand their biggest client at this time is Honda. They make door panels and stuff for Honda. But anyway, this little jewel showed up. Somebody said, "Hey, you want this thing?" This thing came from the University of Syracuse in Syracuse, New York. They bought it brand new in 1973 and used it, as far as I can tell, only on campus. And it is but ugly in this picture. Actually, this picture is pretty flattering, to be honest. I mean, when you look at it up close, it looked like they painted it with a broom or something. But it came with all the equipment and stuff. And this is languished in my garage, which is where you see it here, for quite some time. And finally, this summer, well, August, September, I said, I got to get this thing out of here. And I don't know what we're going to do with it, but here it is. So we embarked on trying to fix it. Got it running. It does run. It did run when I got it, although it was rather interesting getting it off the truck. I had to have it trucked from New York. A private party had bought it, and they were a small video production company. So, you know, I'm the third owner, I guess. Anyway, taking it off of the truck driver said, "You're going to have to drive this thing off because I'm not doing it." And so I went, "Okay, fine." So I got in it, turned the key, started it up, put it in gear, rolled forward, went to hit the brake, and nothing happened. I mean, nothing. Well, the pedal went to the floor. That was pretty special. I almost ran into the building, but I missed. But I did stop it. So no damage was done, although I probably was, up for changing my underwear shortly after that. This is what it looks like inside. Came with all this equipment. Most of it works, which was actually quite amazing. It's air conditioned. It's actually pretty civilized. Has a whole bunch of 9-inch monitors in the thing. Some of them are color. It's a color master monitor, a couple of EV studio monitor speakers. The audio mixer's on the left, and that's a Sony, and I've never seen one like that. And I was in the audio business for almost 40 years. There's a Grass Valley switcher in the middle right there, and the keyboards were just sitting there. They're for a character generator that does not work. Smoke came out of it when we tried that one. Has had 3 videotape machines there on the left. They're Beta SP machines. And the right is just monitoring equipment, and in the middle rather, and on the right are the camera control units. All these cameras that are on it, they're Hitachi cameras, and they use a multi-core cable, a rather giant cable. Oddly enough, some of them came with cables that have never been taken out of the plastic wrapper, which I thought was kind of unusual, but it's at any rate, the cameras actually work. I've tried them. So we decided at any rate to fix it. This is my friend Ben, who's is busily sanding away, trying to smooth it out a little bit. You see some camera cables on the to his left, well near his head. Those are motor operated reels. It's actually a pretty slick thing. The door that's open on the right is the input output panels. You can see all those multi-pin connectors for the various cameras, and there's XLR audio cables and a couple of camera cables sitting down in the bottom of it. And boy, we're getting a thunderstorm right now. I hope we continue keeping our internet working. We'll find out. Oops. On this side is all the power stuff. Those are all voltage regulators. And that's another friend sitting there sanding away, trying to get this thing ready to paint. Because that was the idea, is to try and make it at least look decent. In the very front, near the right front headlight, you'll see a piece of metal that's kind of triangular shape. And apparently they screwed up somewhere along the line, and the steering column sticks out a little farther than the front of the truck. So they built this little bridge cover thing just to cover it up so you wouldn't get dirt in it, I guess. Just like one of those oops sort of things, I guess. So we did. Now, when you paint a vehicle, you should always have it in a nice climate controlled area, no bugs, no nothing. So we did exactly the opposite and put it out in in the grass and painted it outside with mosquitoes and whatever. But it's a truck, so it doesn't really have to have a finish that would be befitting a Rolls Royce or something. So at any rate, this has been sitting there spraying. This the first coat of paint. It took several to get it to cover over the blue. Decided white would be better, especially here in Texas. It actually came out pretty good. This is after the first coat of paint, back in the stall where it belongs. But you can see it actually has a little shine to it in some parts. So it actually came out, frankly, better than I thought it would. In fact, this is kind of what it looked like before we put some lettering on the side of the thing. Once again, it looks greatly improved. We did a little more trim work and stuff like that on it. And even for the front, painted the bumper black and stuff and so on. It actually came out looking pretty okay. We were happy with it. Yet another view of it, complete with the red wheels. Now the blue part was going to be where we put a sign on the thing that said Texas Broadcast Museum. One of the reasons for doing this is we were in downtown Kilgore, Texas, in the quote historic district, and the city is very very particular about the kind of signage that you have and how big your signs can be. And we've gone nose to nose with them. I mean, they wanted to put a sign on the sign of the building that was about the size of a no parking sign that said Texas Broadcast Museum to meet their ordinance. And I had to go nose to nose with them. But you know what? They can't do anything about a vehicle that's licensed and registered, got a current license plate, that's parked on a private parking lot. They have no say on it, and they can't do anything about it. So I even told the city manager before doing this, I said, I'm going to park this sucker right out front of the building so that people can see where we are. And he went, well, that's a pretty good idea. So anyway, that's what we ended up doing. Oops. This has been painting, the hand painting the sign on the thing. It took several coats to get over the blue. The way we did this, and I kind of thought, I've done this before. I did it on the Dumont Telecruiser. I used a video projector. I just went on my computer and made a JPEG file with the lettering on the thing and projected the letters onto the side of the thing, and we traced it. And then he filled it in with several coats of white paint. Kind of a modern twist on sign painting, because you can't find anybody that can paint a sign anymore. It's all done in vinyl letters. And that's nice, but that wouldn't be really authentic, because in 1973 they didn't have, vinyl letters that you just stuck on, or if they did, they were few and far between. So this is what it ended up looking like. Here it is, getting ready to go to the museum from my place. Driving it up on the ramp on this trailer, I decided that the reason I had it trucked, it does run, but the tires appear to be original 1973 tires. And I figured that a blowout on one of those would cost way more than having somebody just move it. That's why we did this. And it was uneventful getting it to the museum, and now it lives at the museum. But everybody needs something like this. I mean, why not? So here it is at the museum. See the museum in the background, and it's parked where you can see it quite visibly from most any area in the downtown. So it's been an adventure. We actually made the TV news, and here's another view of the thing with all its little doors and things like that. They're all locked, and it's very secure. It does have an alarm system. Now this thing is kind of interesting in that they didn't drive it very much. This is what the cab looks like. Now, Warren Willard, who's one of our board members and a big contributor to the museum, is he does aircraft interiors for a living. He makes really nice stuff. Now, when we got this thing, the seat was just completely shredded, torn up. And Warren goes, well, I'm going to I'll reupholster that. I figured he'd just put some black vinyl over the thing, because that's what it was originally, and that'd be that. Oh, no. That's an example of Warren's work on the chair, on the seat. I mean, it's beautiful. It's way better than the rest of the vehicle, that's for sure. For those of you who are motorheads, it's got a Ford. It's a Ford chassis It uses an industrial version of a Ford 390 engine with a 2-barrel carburetor. It has power steering, which is good. The brakes are not power. They're kind of squirrely, but we got them working. It turned out the problem with the no brakes working was the brake lines were rusted out, and every time you put your foot on the pedal, it would squirt out brake fluid all over the place. So, most of the things were pretty simple. We had to rebuild the carburetor. We had to change the spark plugs, points, plugs, condensers, stuff like that. But it starts right up and it runs. It's kind of weird to drive, but I guess it was kind of state of the art back then. A view from the dashboard. If you look at the speedometer, it's kind of hard to read, but it shows the odometer shows 4,184 miles, I think it says. That's all they put on it. As far as I know, the university just drove it around on campus and used it for their cable TV system for football, basketball, things like that. So it's very, very low mileage, and like everything works, which is pretty amazing actually. And this is what it looked like a few days ago. There's 2 switchers. The one in the middle is the Grass Valley, I think it's called a 110, real common switcher. We have several of them that we actually use at the museum. The one on the right is a Sony, and I'm not sure why they had 2 switchers, but they have the video feeds both of them. All I can think of is that maybe they used one for their air feed and a second one for, like a Jumbotron or something like that to feed that. I really don't know. I haven't been able to find out. That this is kind of 90s equipment, 90s era equipment. It's all NTSC, of course. And it almost works. A lot of it, well, I'm going to try and show you a video. We'll see if it works or not. Here's one of the main output monitors. That's a Videotek color monitor that was basically a master monitor and a waveform monitor and a vector scope sitting in that rack. That's the little Sony switcher, which I haven't figured out why they had it, but they do, and the video, all the video sources feed both of them, so they must have had something in mind. That's the Grass Valley. These are a real common switcher, pretty good one too, actually. You could do a lot with it. It will do chroma key and things like that if you really want to. It has all kinds of wipe effects and stuff. And that's the Sony audio console. Like I say, I've never seen one of these before. I actually was a Sony professional products dealer, but apparently after this thing came out, because I never saw one of these. It's a mystery to me. It appears to light up at least. And one of the local TV stations decided to do a little story on this thing, and we're going to see if this. I have to stream this. They wouldn't give me the video because they consider it proprietary, but it's okay to go look at it. So we'll see what happens here. And we'll see if you can hear it. Yeah, we got to listen to the commercial here. Skip ad. Here we go.
Kilgore has a new addition, and if you drive by, it's kind of hard to miss. This KLTV7's Jamie Boyle.
No video.
The TV production truck had a long
Yeah, you have to share a different window.
final parking place.
Share a different window.
Texas Broadcast Museum.
Okay, well, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pause this for a second and see where we can find share a window. This may not work because this is streaming off of.
You're going to have to close the shared.
See if this one works. Can you see that now?
Yep.
Yes.
You can see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we'll go back to the beginning here.
Museum in Kilgore has a new addition, and if you drive by, it's kind of hard to miss. This KLTV7's Jamie
I
Boyle.
don't think it's picking up the audio.
Production
You're
truck
not getting the audio?
before it pulled into its final parking place.
Well, I was afraid of that.
Broadcast Museum
Well, there's a button for that.
I've got audio.
Well, I think it's picking up through your microphone.
Near East Texas Regional Airport.
Right, Dave. It's his microphone that's picking up audio. You have to close out the sharing entirely, start over and select share audio.
Okay, that's I'm not sure I can do that, to be honest with you, without signing out of this thing.
Or put your microphone next to your monitor.
I can do that. Oh, I can do that. I'll put the microphone near a speaker.
I'm not gonna stick on and say what it is. If we do, the state of Texas is really, really permit. Let's just get your permit right with it.
Adams says a permit might be required if it's over 14 feet, but that can be obtained with a phone call, although the tires on the truck have good tread.
If they're 1973 tires, they're probably not really safe. I mean, I figured a flat tire with this thing would probably cost more than having it trucked.
But to transport, it had to go on the trailer.
Your vehicle's 8 feet wide, and so is the trailer, and so you got about 4 inches on each side of the tires.
And Conrad threaded a very large needle. It was chained down and moved out down several FM roads to Kilgore, dodging some low-hanging trees.
The bigger portion of them, there's a few of them, and I just slowed down and just bumped the tree limbs as easy as I could. Tree limbs are one of them things.
The transport took about a half an hour, and
It'll be here for a while at least. This will be a tourist attraction.
the truck came from Syracuse University.
I think mostly they use it on their campus cable TV system.
Conrad plugged in the truck and turned on the circuit breakers. As well, electrical. So much for recording a TV show today, but it's not there for that. It's there to attract the curious to see the history of what you're watching right now. Jamie Boyum, KLTV 7 News.
The truck will not be open to the public, but the museum is. You can visit from 10 in the morning until 5 in the evening on Fridays and Saturdays.
See if I can stop my share here and get back.
Hey, Chuck, I had have a cousin who was at Syracuse around that time period and as a media student.
Mhm.
So I'll ask him if he knows anything about that.
I've had quite a few people. Apparently, their media department, this was pretty famous. They apparently would wheel a 2-inch videotape machine in the back that was normally in whatever hall it was that their studios were in.
Wow.
I've posted a bunch of stuff on Facebook, and it's kind of interesting how many people seem to know about this thing, and were students there and used it and stuff. I'm sure the configuration of the interior is quite different than it was in 1973, because most of that equipment wasn't built in
didn't exist, right?
1973.
The vents up on top, are they air conditioning or just ventilation?
It has air conditioning. It's a big air conditioning and ductwork inside it. And the air conditioner works, so that's kind of a good thing. Now, when you plug this thing in, it would like to have a 50 amp 240 volt service going to it, so it will make your electric meter spin pretty good. So everybody needs one of these, I mean, frankly, I don't know where you'd find another one, but I'm sure they were out. Gerstenschlager made a lot of them. They also made bookmobiles, basically the same chassis and everything. And they were a custom builder for a long time. I know I've talked to a lot of people who used one of these things. In fact, I think when I was in college, I worked at one of the TV stations locally and did the church remote on Sunday morning. And I'm pretty sure the truck, which we called the bread truck, was a Gerstenschlager. It had two GE black and white cameras in it, and it was well worn in the 1960s or whenever it was, 1968, 69, when I worked there. So anyway, everybody needs one of these things, so go out and get one.
I'm trying to recall if Zenith's field research truck was a Gerstenschlager. I seem to recall somebody calling it a bookmobile.
Well, they made a lot of bookmobiles. That was a big deal. And I think they made some as X-ray vans too. In fact, our Dumont Telecruiser, Flexible, the people who made the actual bus part of it, they called that an X-ray van. And apparently that was back from the era when you had to wait till Tuesday when the mobile X-ray unit came to your local hospital to find out if your arm really was broken or not. I guess we've come a long way, but it's a little scary to think that's how it was back then. But I think I pretty much remember that as a kid, that one of my friends broke his arm and the local hospital had to have it X-rayed in a truck because they didn't have an X-ray machine.
Hey, Chuck, thanks a lot for that. I've got to drop off now, but I really appreciate your little demo today.
Okay,
Thank you, Chuck. This is Matthew. I have to leave as well, but really appreciate it. Thank you to
okay,
everyone.
well, come see us. we're not, but they can get into the other two trucks. But they're inside. The Gershenschlager's outside, and if you don't have a ladder, you can't get into it. It actually has steps, but it's a real pain in the neck putting them in. They don't have a handrail, so we really don't want people bleeding or anything. So,
Hey, Chuck, it's
yeah.
Julian here. I've got that a 1952 Dodge truck there that belonged to WGN that televised their baseball games. It's a 52 model. It still has all of its original electronics in it, like 4 CCU units in it for
That's
the
cool.
TK 31s or the TK 11s. But I'm thinking about letting it go. The body's pretty rusty on it, but it's pretty much all there. And anyway, they gave it to one of their sister stations up in Wisconsin. And that's where I got it from. And it's set out in the field there. Some guy was going to make a camper out of it, but never did. And someone called me about it. And I said, I'd like to have it. But I'm considering letting it go. If you know of anybody that might be interested in it, for whatever. And anyway, it's an interest. It's only one known to exist, 1952 Dodge Route van.
Yeah.
And I've even got an original card, and I actually got to speak to all the people that ever drove it at one time. I hope they're still around, but anyway, it might be available. If somebody's looking for something like that.
Well, if we find somebody who's crazy enough to do it, I'm out of space, frankly. But ETF's got the RCA van there that's got all the original equipment in it, and that one is a little bit older, maybe a year older or less than our Telecruiser, and it's got everything in it. And of course, the problem with something like that is it either needs everything or nothing. I mean, and I think the right choice has been made at ETF on the RCA van of nothing, just preserve it the way it is. I really think that's the right thing to do. Keep it clean, and it's got a good home. And I know Steve did a expose on it one time as one of the museum artifacts, and I'm really fascinated by these things. I don't know why. Well, obviously we're all crazy. Everybody on this, I mean, we're not normal if you're doing this stuff. That's all. Anyway, it's fun.
By the way, when you showed that truck there in the beginning there, looked like someone sneaking out that side door over there. Who was that? If you look at that one that you originally shown of that German name thing that you got there, I can't pronounce it right now, but you can see somebody looks like they have their hand poked around the door or something.
I hadn't noticed that, to be honest with you. Well, the truck driver was there. Jamie Boyum from the TV station was there, and Brian Black, who works at the radio station, was there. He's the guy with the black T-shirt, black pants.
The shot when it was in your garage.
Yes.
Okay. That is Ben. I can't remember Ben's last name, but he was the painter guy. So,
looked like someone sneaking out there.
Well, maybe they were.
That could be is that a door to a restroom?
No, it actually goes into the front room of where I'm sitting right now.
Anyway, I just happened to think, looked like somebody sneaking around there. Well, anyway, I hope
you might have been. I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and look at it, but I'm not going to go do it right now.
Well, you have a blessed evening there, Guy.
Okay, you too.
Thanks for everything. I enjoyed that tour that you had there. Very nice.
Well, they did a nice job. Actually, the TV station has a streaming channel also, and they've got about a 20-minute video of the whole procedure on that. The guy who shot it all, which was all shot on an iPhone. I mean, that's the scary part about all this is they use an iPhone to do TV news now. But he said they'll really like this one because it's 20 minutes long. And that means the guys in master control can sleep in between the run, while it's running. Because when they're only 2 or 3 minutes, they got to stay awake. It's all computer operated anyway. So I'm sure there's just a guy sitting there with a keyboard and a space bar or something.
Chuck, thanks very much. That was really neat.
Well, it's different anyway, you know.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that. It's the more of this stuff we can save, the better.
Yeah, well, there's kind of a thing where I used to know a lady who was on the radio in Dallas, and she got a job as the helicopter traffic reporter, and she had no idea what she was doing, but her whole mantra was, "I can do that." And sometimes you go, "Well, somebody's got to do it, and maybe I can." Who knows? You don't know till you try. And she was pretty funny in the helicopter. The first day in the job with a helicopter thing, Ron Chapman, who was the local morning man, goes, uh, let's go to the KVI helicopter and find out what the traffic's like from Susie Humphreys." And she had no idea where she was. She goes, "Well, Ron, I don't know exactly where we are, but there sure are a lot of cars out here, and they're not going anywhere real fast. Back to you, Ron." You know, real useful traffic. But you became a celebrity in Dallas, so what can you say?
Well, let's um, open this up now for anybody that wants to talk about anything, including more about Chuck's truck.
I'll stay here for a few minutes, and if you got questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Okay.
Who knows?
And I'm going to have to take off, but
I haven't eaten either, so
me either.
I've been munching on some chips here in between things, but I'll hang around for a little while.
Okay. So rest of you hang around as long as you want to. Talk about anything you want to talk about, and I will see you all next month.
Okie doke.
Love the color bar shirt, Chuck.
Yeah, we sell these at the museum, but they're an endangered species because we just tried to reorder them, and they're up to almost $30 a piece to have them made because this is a transfer. It's not a silk screen, and we had some silk screen and they looked horrible, but these look pretty good. This one's probably 2 years old. See if you can see it. Now I'm sure the SMPTE people might sue us or something, but it's not really a SMPTE color bar. It's close, but it's not quite. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to. We just can't. I don't think we can sell a shirt that costs us almost $30. 20 bucks is what we used to sell these for, including sales tax, which around here is 8.25%. So we're really selling for like $18. Like, so we're not reordering. So get them now.
Oh, Chuck, my next door neighbor goes down to Texas there for some reason, off and on. He has one of those great big motorhome things. But while he was down there, apparently he bought one of those color bar shirts from you, and he gave it to me. I said, I said, I know that guy.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we have people with motorhomes that come in and we actually have enough parking to where they can abandon the thing. I came in yesterday and there's a brand new Dodge, whatever it is, or I guess it's a Ram pickup truck with a big Airstream trailer behind it in our parking lot. That happens.
Yeah, free parking, I guess.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like it's better than Walmart.
And if your place had a used car lot out there, so it should have a water spigot out there too. How very handy.
Yeah, it's shut off. Well, actually, there is one that does work. Yeah, so we actually have some outlets outside too. So I've got padlocks on those because we've found stealing electricity. I one day came to our storage building and to go get something, and there was a garden hose connected up to our water faucet outside and going down the street about half a block, and some guys were power washing a building down there, and I probably would have said that was great, except they didn't ask. That was kind of a surprise. It worked out okay, and it was good that they power washed the building and painted it because it was in a real eyesore. It's not a really grand neighborhood, but but it was cheap. So anybody got anything else, or should I just eat chips in front of you?
I was wondering, what's the state of the cameras in that Syracuse truck?
They all work. They're Hitachi 3CCD cameras, all NTSC, of course, and they all work. Some of them are missing the viewfinder, which is makes it kind of awkward. And we didn't get any tripods with it, naturally. I'm sure they kept those, but and they will all run by themselves if you put 12 volts on them, or they'll work. They have a CCU adapter with looks like about a 27 pin plug or so that goes back, and we've got a whole ton of cables that came with it. The cable reels are electric. It's pretty deluxe. You just push a button and it starts rolling up the cable. But if you're not careful, it'll roll up your arm with it too. So yeah, be careful what you ask for. But I was really surprised that a lot of the cables, I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 of them that have never been out of their plastic wrap. They're still, factory fresh. So I'm guessing they must have put this stuff in the 90s, and all of a sudden they had to go HD, and all of a sudden that's one of the reasons we got so much broadcast equipment. I mean, I was down at our storage locker the other day, storage building the other day, trying to sort out just the ENG cameras. Those are electronic news gathering shoulder mount cameras that you see a lot of. I have 60 of them in a pile, well, not in a pile, actually on shelves. They all look about the same, so if you know anybody who's looking for a nice ENG camera that's NTSC, I could probably fix them up. Because I don't know what in God's name we'll ever do with 60 of those cameras, but they keep coming in. People keep bringing us these things, and some of them are tubes and some of them are solid state. And recently, when I mentioned that we got this camera crane, a 1947 camera crane. Those of you who tuned in later might not have heard the conversation, but at any rate, it came from a prop house in Atlanta. And along with the camera crane and the truck, they threw in 2 pallet loads of stuff that, well, may be junk. I really don't know. I haven't had time to go through it. One of them has 4 or 5 studio cameras, or at least parts of studio cameras in it. And the other has just a whole bunch of chassis for weird things. And some of them are early RCA bathtub type chassis and stuff. So we're going to have to go through it real carefully and make sure that we're not throwing away something that's irreplaceable or something. But it's beginning to get almost ridiculous, the amount of stuff that shows up. So I've actually refused stuff recently. But, a few parting gifts. Here's 2 pallet loads. Hope you have a forklift truck, which, yes, we do, thank God. In fact, getting this camera crane, which weighs somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds, off of the truck was kind of interesting. The truck had a lift gate, but it was too heavy for the lift gate. So we used 2 forklift trucks to hold this thing up. It was on a pallet, a really big pallet made of 2x12s. And we used 2 forklifts to hold the thing up and told the driver to pull ahead. And, and he drove out from under it, and then we lowered it down, and it actually worked. Amazingly enough, it was one of those clenched kind of moments, though. But nothing fell. Nobody got hurt. Nobody bled. Nobody ended up in the hospital or anything. So, and whoever used to operate this thing, it took some real men to move this thing, because I mean it's heavy it's about as heavy as a full-size Cadillac or something. It does have wheels. It's all counterbalanced but there's not enough lead weights to counterbalance it. We put a camera on it. We put an RCA TK11 on it, which looks really cool on the thing, but counterbalancing, there's just not enough weights. So if you know anybody's got a bunch of lead weights they'd like to deliver to Kilgore, I'd be interested. It needs about another 250 pounds worth of weights on the backside of the thing to balance out.
Chuck, you got any shooting range over in your neck of the woods that might be able to contribute some spent lead to you?
Well, there you go. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. You know, they like guns here in East Texas. So,
That's kind of what I figured. They might be able to set you up with some lead or let you mine some out of their fields.
yeah, well, that sounds like a lot of physical labor to me. You know,
It probably is, but a lot of times you get guys at a gun club to volunteer and do that stuff.
well, you never know. There's actually a gun club not too far away. That's a thought. Hadn't thought about that, but get a bunch of lead.
Those ENG cameras, I think, are pretty much everywhere. And some places have just been throwing them in the dumpster. And in fact, there's a college here close by that one of the secretaries saw where they just put them in the trash. And she said, I can't let them do that. So it sits up in her office up there.
Yep.
I've got a real nice big one there. It's a wireless thing there that they had. But they always turn up at the Dayton Hamvention and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
well, I know I brought a couple to the ETF swap meet a year or two ago and didn't get much money for them at all. I know there's a kid that got one he must have been 19, 20 years old, I'm guessing. He was thrilled, you know, so that's great. I mean, if that's what, I mean, people bring us this stuff and I think that they bring them to us so they don't have to pay a recycling fee to get rid of it. You know, I mean,
yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're getting some younger people interested in stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's really important. That's one of the reasons for the museum actually is to try and get younger people. But most of our visitors are in their 60s, 70s, or 80s even.
Well, hopefully your warehouse there full of those ENG cameras, about 50 or 60 of them. They'd be nice little handouts, you know, if you find some real interested, you know, younger people. Yeah, it's a nice gift, and it's an inexpensive gift that means a lot to some people because, you know, they're not making any more of them. So what's left is what's left.
Right. And, you know, they were really expensive when they were new. I mean, it wasn't hard to spend $35,000 or so on one of those things, you know, which was about the price of a really nice car back then, too. A really nice car. Now that just gets you a roller skate with an engine on it. But,
and Bobby Ellerby down in Atlanta, I bought a lot of his stuff. He decided to move.
Right.
And I bought most of his tubes and stuff, but at one time he had about 30, I think, ENG camera stuff or things like them. And he offered them to me real cheap. And I just decided, man, what am I going to do with 30 of them? You know, 3 or 4 around is enough. How many do you need to display? And I don't know what happened to them, but
from they might have ended up at RJ Props in Atlanta.
I think that's what happened.
A lot of Chuck Ferris's stuff did too. In fact, I think a lot of the 2 pallet loads of stuff that they threw in along with the shipment, I think a lot of it has Chuck Ferris's initials on it somewhere because he was where all the cameras went. But I'm beginning to think we're where all the cameras went now. Last count, I think we've got 117 on display. That's a lot of cameras. I mean, they're everywhere. You keep tripping over the things and stuff.
One of my favorite stories that I have, I was born in Washington, D.C. And in 1960, my dad was transferred to Seattle, Washington. And we lived up on Queen Anne Hill. And this was like 1960. So I watched them build the World's Fair up there. And our house overlooked the World's Fair and Puget Sound and all of that. And I'd have to walk to school, and all 3 networks were up there that I'd walk right by them. And I knew all the broadcast engineers. Well, Como, their first camera was a TK-42, and it was down at the World's Fair site because during the World's Fair, all the networks had some kind of a booth or a setup there. And I think Como, which was Channel 4, had a booth where you could see yourself on colored TV, you know, one of the old round tube sets. Right. And anyway, being an RCA, it had a beautiful, Como in color plexiglass embossed on it, just nice. And I was just thinking, boy, and I was like 11 years, 12 years old back then. Well, I thought, boy, I'd like to own one of those, but who could afford $70,000 in 60-year-ago money? But anyway, of all the crazy things, Chuck Ferris had a Como camera and still in its original condition. Apparently, when Como was disposing of them, one of them ended up in a Lincoln Mercury dealership up there. Hey, that kind of rings true with you, doesn't it there?
Yep.
Ford dealership. But anyway, of course, dealerships, the managers come and go, and finally one comes in, get rid of this junk. We're selling cars, not, TVs and all that. Well, somehow or the other, someone told Chuck Ferris about it, and he drove from California up there to Seattle and picked it up. I did not even know that he even had it until they started advertising it. I started seeing it around a little bit, and I said, Chuck, I'm interested in that. He said Como was wanting it back, kind of, sort of, but they did not want to pay the shipping on it, which is ludicrous. That's silly, of all people. But anyway, I ended up getting it from Chuck. I have this beautiful camera that I was with when I was 12 years old, wishing I had one. So, you talk about karma, just, and other things have come my way as well. But, what a coincidence, and then also in Seattle, that's where I met Norman Alquist up there, 4 years older than I was. He built an Image Orthicon camera from scratch by himself at 14 years of age. And he entered it into the science fair, and he won national recognition with it. And he went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and New York City to show it and put it on the air, of all crazy things. I also own that camera now. And about a year or so ago, somebody on the not early television, but on Facebook or something, someone saw a picture of Norman Alquist with a camera that he built and from years ago, and he just wondered if anybody knew anything about it. And I've got in touch with him through Ellerby there, and I said, I've got that camera. And he was a friend of mine, and also Norman's still living. And anyway, he got in touch with him, but of all other crazy things, I own that one too, and that was part of my childhood. So I've been in it since I was like 7 years old, taking and begging for old radios and stuff. But, that's kind of my story there. But
well, I got into it going to the local town dump, just picking up stuff. The town I grew up in New England didn't have garbage pickup, so we had to take all your trash to the local town dump, and it was quite it was almost a community thing to meet your neighbors on either Saturday or Sunday afternoon and exchange trash. And I was always bringing home old radios and TVs and stuff. I'm going to have to go. I just got a call from somebody saying that one of my dogs is in their house right now. Apparently, the thunder and lightning has freaked out the dog, so I got to go gather the dog up. So
real quick, when I was in Arlington, Virginia, living there, our city dump was within walking distance. And if I wasn't there every day, it was every other day. And the guy at the gate, I sort of made friends with him, but they had an area that was fenced in where they, dump old refrigerators. I was always looking for old radios, and that's how I learned to take them apart. And I think when I was in the second grade, a teacher asked me if I'd bring a radio to school and demonstrate or explain how it worked. I don't know how good I did, but I did it. But, since I was 7 years old. Anyway, enough of that.
okay, well, my neighbor is bringing the dog to the house, so I guess I can hang in here. Let me. My dogs do not like lightning and thunder, and we're having some right now.
Nice job, Chuck. It's always a real pleasure when you make presentation.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Hopefully they're not boring too much, and it wouldn't appeal to just anybody, I guess. But this is a special group, so.
I've been to Chuck's Museum before, and it's a great place to spend some time. I strongly recommend if you're in the area, even out of the area, drop by and devote an hour or two, and you'll have a fun time at it.
Yeah, you need a couple hours, especially if we give you a tour. If I give you a tour, it might take all day, but that's okay. I had about a 3.5 hour tour yesterday with some people, but they were broadcasters. We get a lot of broadcasters and a lot of people who just got a background in this, and and they come from all over. I mean, it's really quite amazing. I think Seattle was this weekend got the long distance award.
Dave, what did your T-shirt say? I couldn't read it. Dave, what does your T-shirt say?
I can't hear Dave.
I'm here, yeah. You're talking to me?
Dave A.
Dave A.
Dave A is muted.
I see that. He's saying something, but I can't hear him.
Dave, unmute.
Yeah, you're still muted, Dave.
Earth to Dave.
Chuck or Julian, if you have a BVP 30 head-in camera parts, I'll take it. Thank you very much. And
I remember you were asking for one, and that's one we don't have. We've got.
Well, what's wrong there? Yeah.
I don't know.
And here, well, it doesn't want to focus real well. Now
Hold it up to you. Put it on your chest.
No, it's a T-shirt I found at Kutztown for WPTZ back in the early 50s. It's just fun. And it's a great Philadelphia memory.
I don't remember WPTZ, but it would work today. Pan tilt zoom, I mean.
WPTZ is now KYW.
Okay, all right. I know KYW.
TV. And it was in the day before the war was W3XE, then became WPTZ.
I see. Well,
and a little bit of family history here, friends history. One of my good friends, one Don Solenberger, was on a WPTZ. They had their license in 1941, right before the war. And they were doing programs out of Philco. And Don was an actor in a little thing called a play called 20 Diamonds. It was a little Friday night program they put on from the Philco Studios, which used to be W3XE, and they got licensed and they were W3XE. And we figured out the date of this broadcast was somewhere in December of 1941, right before World War II, which Don became drafted into the Army, but it was a collaboration between Temple University actors, Penn University actors, and Philco up at their studios at C in Tioga. And Don is still with us at 102 years old. He might be the oldest living American television actor ever, still in existence. And he is the nicest guy you would ever want to meet. He's Quaker, very, very kind, Quaker. You got to live here to know the Quakers. And it's my pleasure to know this guy. And he gave me, I have it upstairs, when Don left the studio. Somehow he ended up with the original camera card, which it was a show called 20 Diamonds, was the name of the show, produced by, directed by, so on. And I have the original camera card from 1941. It's up in my living room, and it's just a treasure to me to have this bit of broadcast, in my case, Philadelphia history. It's astounding.
Sounds like cool stuff. I hate to eat and run here, but I've got to go rescue a dog from my next door neighbor, so who's freaking out. So everybody have a good evening. Talk among yourselves. Have a good time, and I will see you next time. Take care.
Good night, everybody. Been a great show.